That sounds fun. That sounds fun.
Hi, friends. Welcome to another episode of That Sounds Fun, the seasons, and happy St. Patrick's Day. I'm your host, Annie F. Downs. I'm so happy to be here with you. Today on the show, we're answering the question, how do I handle the changing of a season as we are working our way towards spring? Did y'all know that St. Patrick's Day happened in winter? I did not, but here we are. Today on the show, one of our favorites and Hall of Fun member is back. When Ellie Holcomb was on the show earlier this year with her husband, Drew, she said she had a kid's book coming out about spring. I was like, yeah, Ellie, duh, you have to come back and help us usher in the spring. Ellie's new kids book and accompanying album is called Spring Sings, and it is an Easter book, so this would be such a fun gift to put in Easter baskets. We're talking about the changing of seasons today, and I love what Ellie said about this book because it's exactly what we need right now as we are officially stepping into spring. She said, we all know what it's like to be in the winter seasons, and this book is a reminder that winter never gets the final word. That's it. You're going to love this conversation. And if you're following along in your TSF Seasons guidebook, we are on page 27. For those of you who have the guidebook, your spring pages are being emailed to you today so you can print them out, add them to your notebook, and get ready for our spring shows. And also, it's not too late to jump in and get the guidebook. Today is a perfect day to do that. So you'll get all the winter pages and all the spring pages, and then we'll email you the summer and the fall when those seasons begin. You're going to find that at anniefdowns.com/seasons. Okay, get all of your note-taking things ready. Here's my conversation with our friend, Ellie Holcomb.
That sounds fun.
Okay, fine. I'll just... I'm good. Just applied mascara, but...
Okay, wait, tell me why. Tell me what that makes you feel, Ellie. Let's go. Let's get in the show.
Well, you were just praying the most beautiful prayer, Annie. And when you talk about a river, like, let this not be a tight, you just prayed.
Yeah.
Let this conversation, did you record the prayer? Am I
No.
repeating what people just said?
No. They don't hear the prayer.
Okay. Well, you just prayed, let this conversation not be a tightrope that we can fall off of, but a river that we are in the flow of. And I think that makes me cry because I took an adventure with God last year.
What does that mean?
Oh my goodness. I spent a year last year, well, 9 months of doing like an hour of prayer and meditation every day with God. And I, like a guided thing, it was St. Ignatius, called the 19th Invitation. And every week I would meet with my spiritual director, but it was an experience that just changed my life. I think the reason I started crying during the prayer that you prayed right before I got on the podcast, is because you said, let this conversation not be a tightrope that we're walking on, but a river that we are just in the flow of. And one of the things that I experienced during that time was, instead of taking just a thimble and dipping it into the ocean of God's love and like sipping it, or a teacup and dipping it into the ocean of God's love and sipping in it, I feel like what I did last year was just like I was in the ocean of God's love.
Wow.
Just like, and as it turns out, love changes us.
Yeah.
It's really hard to be spending time with the one who made you and knows you best and loves you and stay the same.
We answer a question. You and Drew have already been on the show this year, which is great. Welcome to 2025, where we just get the guests when we need them. So we answer a question every week, and every episode. And today's is, how do I handle the changing of seasons? And what I'm thinking about when you're telling that is, all three of your kids are in school. So in this season of your life, you're able to take an hour after they're in school. How would you have experienced? I'm assuming that's totally an assumption. Were you doing it once they went to school?
Yes, Annie, this is exact. I love you so much. You just know
mutual.
That's exactly what happened. And I actually tried. I asked my spiritual director, who's basically like a counselor, who's, praying with you and holding space for you and kind of listening to your journey and asking questions along the way. But I actually asked if I could do it the year before. And she was like, I'm totally open to that, but I really want you to pray about it because I still had Rivers at home. And he's, my joy tornado.
That's right.
Kid. And so you're exactly right. So literally when he was in, I guess it was last year was pre-K for him, but it was a full day thing. That's the exact thing. And I carved out, an hour every day just as soon as I dropped him off at school. And it was all of a sudden I had margin that honestly, I mean, if you're like a young mom or dad listening to this, it does not feel like you'll ever have margin again for something like that.
Yeah, I'm sure. Because it isn't like it was just River's life that you didn't have the margin. It's that since Emmy Lou, you've had somebody at home. So for a decade, you've had somebody at home. I think people need to hear that in the season they're in. You can have a thriving relationship with God no matter what. You just may not have the same amount of time that I have as a person who lives by myself, or that you now have as your kids in school, or that someone whose kids are graduated and their empty nesters have. So how did you connect to the river of God's love when you've got 3 littles running around all day, every day?
Yeah, I think I have a friend, Krista Wells, who talks about this.
Yes.
And it looked like, so I try to get up early. I do not do that every day at all. And then when your kids wake up early, that means you have to get up earlier. Plus I like to stay up late. So I remember her saying sometimes if you can get up and maybe pour yourself a cup of coffee and at least take one deep breath of gratitude, that's enough to sustain you. And so I would say it looked like that a lot. For me, it just was
breathing.
shorter amounts of time. And then I think, Annie, probably in the time when they were younger, it was, I mean, this still feels vital to me now, but I was getting a lot of what was being poured into me and small groups, right? I just at church on Sunday when they're in Sunday school, and that still is those are still gifts for me now. But I think I was like leaning on that probably a little heavier than not, and then finding ways to just like enfold prayer, and that's why I started singing scripture.
Singing scriptures, right?
Because I'm like, I need to preach to my heart, and reading the Jesus Storybook Bible with them. There's something beautiful about that being enfolded. As you're like, I also making mistakes and losing your patience and then practicing repentance.
Certainly.
Like, oh man,
yes,
I did not do that good. Please forgive me. And thank goodness for do-overs. We're going to get to try again. And like my friend, I love it, says, if you lose your patience with your kids or with your people in your life, she's like, don't worry, you're going to get a chance to try again in like 2 to 5 minutes.
I mean, I have to do that, Ellie. If I say something, I mean, scripture says a person who talks a lot is usually a fool. So I have to go back and repent a lot. And often I have to walk away. And this happened to me last night. I met somebody that I've never met before. She was telling me how she appreciates our work and some differences we share where we disagree on some things. And I don't love how I answered. And I walked away and then was like, God, give me another chance. Like, give me another chance to interact with her somehow, but I have to let go. I mean, I didn't say anything sinful. I just was dumb. I wasn't as thoughtful as I wanted to be. And so, but I have to do that of like, you'll get another chance. You'll get another chance. Like, yeah, you will get to try again.
Sun's going to come up tomorrow again.
That's exactly. The seasons are going to keep changing. We're still going to keep doing this.
And I
think you'll love this.
As soon as you get on Instagram, you're going to have another chance to take a deep breath instead of getting.
That's exactly right. No. That's exactly right. At our church here in New York, at the end of the service, they get up and say, we're going to sing a few more songs. The service is officially over. You're welcome to go. But here's a couple of things that we feel like God might want to do. When our pre-service group prayed, we felt these words. We felt this, like, if anybody is feeling depressed, whatever. The last thing they always say, Ellie, is they say, and we are sure the Holy Spirit is saying, go get your kids from children's ministry. We are sure that the Holy Spirit is saying, go get your children to
Very
let
clear.
those people go. Yeah. You have had your time with the Lord. Now we need to let go of those volunteers who are running your children's Sunday mornings. I always
Now
think
is
that
not
is,
the time to have coffee with your friend in the hall.
that's it. That's it. The Holy Spirit didn't tell you to sit here and keep praying for another 30 minutes because you need a break. Go get your children. Okay, speaking of children, Spring Sings. We had to have you for as we are walking. I mean, this is our last show before spring officially starts. So spring is singing. Spring is singing. Ellie, this book is beautiful.
Thank you, friend.
I've got to know, why spring? Why was that the like season you leaned into? Your other kids' books are gorgeous, but they're not like season specific.
No. Well, I mean, Sounding Joy, I have a Christmas book, so I guess
Sure.
is.
You're right.
But Annie, ever since I wrote my first kids book, like Easter, I don't know if I had to decide between Christmas and Easter. I really love Christmas. But the in the church calendar, right? Like in
Listen,
the
I'm a
story,
Lent and Easter girl all day, every day. I love it.
Ooh,
It's getting
baby.
lighter. It's getting brighter outside. Oh, I love it.
I love it too. And so I have always loved, I was like, oh my gosh, one day, I am going to write an Easter book and I can't wait.
Wow.
And honestly, I just never, you talk about seasons. It never felt like the right time.
Wow.
I will say in 2020, in Nashville, Tennessee, March 3rd of 2020,
Yes.
this is before COVID, like just
Right.
the
The
whole
week
world
before.
shut down. Yeah.
Yes.
We had that tornado that hit, it went right behind our house. It was the scariest night of my life. And,
Yes.
and I will never forget, just so in spring, it's tornado season in Nashville. So there's also that kind of like rhythm where if storms are coming, me and the kids, Drew is out of town and we all have a bit of like PTSD around storms. So what struck me though about that time is when we were walking around and there's so much devastation, of homes that were destroyed and trees that got knocked down. But Annie, even some of the trees that got knocked down, it was also springtime. And so
Wow.
Still there were branches of trees that were on the ground that were still blooming, which is crazy.
Oh my gosh.
So even though this storm had come, spring was still coming. And I just think, I just was like, I'm so grateful in this time. And then COVID happened. I'm like, in this time that feels so heavy and so chaotic and so broken, that the earth is still singing and maybe magnified in some ways because we're slowing down enough to listen.
I mean, I was so thankful. If we got to go through something like a pandemic in 2020, thank God it was in the spring, because there was like outside, and there was something. I remember we did Crosspoint, we did our Easter services outside, like we recorded outside. And I remember going and being like, wow, I can't stand near my friends, but at least we can be outside and do something. But can we talk about the tornado night for a minute?
Yeah.
I don't know that you and I have ever talked about this in a recorded way. My experience was I'm on the other side of town. It didn't come near my house, but it destroyed my church and changed our church's life forever. Tell me more about that night for you. What did you experience with God? Like, what was it like having that massive, I mean, it was a F5. Everybody listening probably knows. I mean, it killed people. It destroyed homes, churches, buildings. I mean, it was massive.
Mm-hmm. Like streets unrecognizable, like it just looks like a scene from a movie. Yeah. So I, have grown up in Nashville all my life, lots of tornado warnings and watches and stuff. And obviously they've hit before, but I had never experienced one personally. So it hit in the middle of the night. So I had no idea. Like I didn't even pay attention to, now I think we all watch Nash Severe Weather on Twitter.
Yeah, that's right. There's one account we all follow. That's 100%
so we
true.
all follow.
That's right.
But I literally woke up, Drew was out of town, woke up to our entire house shaking. And it literally, Sweeter After on my Canyon record is about this, but I literally, it literally sounded like, have you ever seen the cartoons? Like, I feel like on Goofy, maybe this happens where something scares him and it's like your whole body lifts out of
Yes.
bed.
Yes.
That's how I woke up, of just like, and I did everything wrong. Like, I ran into the kids' rooms because that's immediately obviously what I'm thinking of. And there are all these windows in their upstairs hallway and in our stairs. So that scared me. I was like, I don't think you're supposed to go near windows. And really, you're supposed to get as low as you can in the house.
Yeah.
And anyway, we should have gone to the basement. But ran into their rooms. They didn't wake up. I didn't have internet. I didn't have electricity. I had my phone, and I saw that my dad had sent me a text to be like, hey, are you okay? That you need to, he had texted me in the middle of the night and didn't call because I don't think he, anyway, I called him, and it was so sweet to be on the phone with my dad in that moment.
Yes.
And he's like, I think you're okay, because it had passed by the time I got into the kids. It's so fast, like
so
it's
fast
probably
and so loud. Was it loud, but it wasn't loud enough to wake up the kids?
They slept entirely through it. They did not wake up. And so I was like,
that's tour kids right there. That's kids who ride and sleep part of their year every year.
these babies have been on the road at 2 weeks, all of them. Yeah,
they're pros.
They literally did not wake up, which is wild. And then I was like, do I wake them up? That like, do I get them out of bed? Is that more dangerous? Or is this going to like traumatize them more? But I didn't know what else was coming, and I couldn't watch it because I didn't have internet or anything. So I was on the phone with my dad. We ended up in the basement that night. I ended up getting them all up just in case. And it was still crazy storms, around that.
Yes.
And our neighbors ended up coming over, their dogs in our basement, because not a lot of houses in East Nashville have a basement. And so it ended up being this really sweet night of community, anyway, we've been calling our neighbor's dog the wrong name all our lives. The dog's name is Bart, and we had been calling him Bark forever.
Hilarious.
So our kids remember discovering that. So it was such a wild, it just was a crazy night. Did not have flashlights, did not have, all the things. We were out of power for a week after that, but it was really, really scary. And I remember, you ask about what was that like with God, in those moments where you're just like, every nerve is on end. It's breath prayer. It's breath prayer. Like you're just like, Jesus being here, Jesus protect us, Jesus help. And so, and then I kept saying, Jesus bring peace, because it was really, really scary. So we slept in the basement that night and woke up to just, wow. I mean, so many friends were out of their homes and houses. It was crazy.
I think tornadoes they're the least understandable natural disaster to me of why God allows them. They're the ones that don't make that. I'm like, we can't prepare for them. You can't, and they are pure disaster. They are pure disaster. And they are a springtime thing. So in the middle of these changing seasons, in the middle of the spring sings and this beautiful book and all the lovely things, there's also 3 or 4 times in Nashville where we go like, maybe tonight, maybe this afternoon, the overnight ones, like the one on March 3rd. I don't know, Ellie. Those make me ask some questions, honestly.
Yeah. Oh, same. I mean, the same. But here's the deal. And this is what I think is so beautiful. And this is why I think the timing of the book, like we all, no matter who we are, whether it's a real storm, a tornado, a hurricane, the fires in LA, to be human on this beautiful and broken earth is to know brokenness and is to walk through storms. Like, I am blown away. I love our job. And I mean, I know you get this too, but one of the gifts of doing something like writing books or having a podcast or writing songs is you get the privilege of hearing people's stories.
Yes.
And holding space for those.
Yes.
And I mean, the stories that we hear, the people who are listening to our music, the people who are listening to this podcast, that we all have complicated, hard, heartbreaking things that happen. Sickness, depression, people losing their jobs, people losing people that they love,
Yeah.
longings, dreams that don't turn out like you want them to. And so
Yes.
I think what is wild to me is this combination. And I think the Easter story speaks so beautifully into
Yeah.
this because we all know death and suffering. We all know it
Yes.
in one way or
Yes.
another.
Yes.
It's like the one common thing. It's definitely a common thing that no matter who you are, we all have one thing in common. Like we're gonna die.
Yeah, we're alive
And
today and
we're
we are
alive
promised
today,
tomorrow. That's the
and we
thing
are
that's the
promised
same about
tomorrow.
all of us. Yeah.
There's no guarantees,
Yeah.
and we're affected by death. Like we
Yes,
have
that's
people
right.
that we love who are no longer with us, and so I think there has been, and as a 7 on the Enneagram, my fellow
Yes.
friend, for so long I tried to avoid and escape pain and escape the storms and escape the heaviness of that. But I think as the older that I get, this is where the power of the Easter story really comes into play
Yeah.
because love just runs head first straight into the storm.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for that. So, this book, Spring Sings, I wrote, I love your book, Where Did TJ Go, so much,
Thank
Annie.
you. Thank you.
And it just doesn't surprise me at all at hearing all the stories that are coming in because
Yeah.
it's so hard to lose somebody, especially who's so
Yeah.
young.
Yeah. Which your family knows too. I mean,
Yeah,
y'all know it
that's
profoundly too.
exactly. So our Drew's cousin is a dear friend of ours, and her precious daughter Bailey. We just lost her this past February to an aggressive battle, like a year-long battle with pediatric cancer, soft tissue cancer. And man, it was so heavy. It was so heavy. And this also coincided with the year anniversary of Covenant, which
Yes.
also happened in the
Yes.
spring, which is another Nashville just
Oh,
storm that we have walked
yes.
through. And I, it was such a powerful thing and a wild and heavy and beautiful, mysterious thing to be writing a children's book about
Wow.
resurrection as you were losing a, a dear child who you loved in your life.
Yes.
And so but this to me is the upside down backwards beauty of the gospel story, of the Easter
That's right.
story. And this is what spring sings. And the reason that I love that spring has happened during this same season where we've had these tragedies in our city, the tornado, the Covenant shooting, losing Bailey. I think that spring tells the story every single year that death is never the end of the story. It's never the end. And you can see the evidence of it. I can't get over it. And I keep saying about this book, we've been on tour when it released, and I keep saying, this book is an Easter book, but the Easter story is for all seasons, and it's maybe especially. I love that we're in the end in your podcast of this winter season because I think we especially need the story of the song that spring sings and the story of Easter in the dark, gray, cold winter months when we are rattled with, I think, seasonal depression. When it just feels like, golly, is this cold ever going to end? Is this season in my life ever going to change? Is this grief ever going to lift?
Yes.
And I am so thankful for it.
That sounds fun.
Hey friends, just interrupting this conversation to tell you about one of our incredible partners, Thrive Cosmetics. Okay, for over 10 years, Thrive Cosmetics has been helping women celebrate their strength with their beauty products that are certified 100% vegan and cruelty-free. It's all made with clean, skin-loving ingredients, which I love because I can trust what I'm putting on my skin. But it's not just about their makeup. It's a commitment to becoming your best self, to thrive in every moment, and to empower others to do the same. And for every product you purchase from Thrive Cosmetics, they donate products and funds to help communities thrive, which is awesome. If you want to give one of their products a try, you've got to start with my favorite Liquid Lash Extensions Mascara. I literally wear it every day. It's the actual best. So let's celebrate our strength and beauty with Thrive Cosmetics, luxury beauty that gives back. Right now, you can get an exclusive 20% off your first order at thrivecosmetics.com/TSF. Again, that's Thrive Cosmetics, CAUSEMETICS.com/TSF for 20% off your first order. And I have another incredible partner I get to tell you about, AG1. As we transition to spring, if you're thinking about doing some decluttering, it's a great time to refresh your nutrition and daily habits. Feeling refreshed and ready starts in your gut. And the pre-probiotics in AG1 helps to support digestion. I drink AG1 every single morning because I love knocking out getting all of the vitamins, minerals, and pre and probiotics I need with one drink first thing in the morning. It is so easy. And when it comes to my health, I want something I can trust, and that's why I choose AG1. With science-backed ingredients and real benefits I can feel, like I can really feel, AG1 makes it easy to support overall wellness every day. And that's why I've been partnering with AG1 for so long. AG1 is now offering new subscribers a free $76 gift when you sign up. You'll get a welcome kit, a bottle of D3 plus K2, and 5 free travel packs in your first box. So make sure to check out drinkag1.com/soundsfun to get this special offer for my friends. That's drinkag1.com/soundsfun to start your new season on a healthier note. Okay, now back to our conversation with Ellie.
That sounds fun.
As winter is ending, because we've been so intentional about it this year, it's kind of front and center with my life a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm having some reflections of, man, when I get to do winter again, here's what I want to do different. When I get to do
Ooh,
winter
Annie.
again, I want to be thoughtful of this and that, and some things about my body and some things about my time. And so as we're changing seasons, Ellie, like you said, and there is not a better time to think about spring than when winter feels like it's not going to end.
Yeah.
But as we're changing seasons, how would you reflect on winter? Like, are you just like, get me out of there, winter? Or are you sad to see it end? Or are you like, okay, I'll see you in a year and here's how I'll be different? What are your thoughts on leaving winter?
I think I feel less. I don't know. I'm up north on tour right now. We're
Yeah.
having
And we're
this
cold.
conversation, and it's still cold here. So it feels kind of fun to like make it home and see like little
Yes.
evidence of spring coming, and then
Yes.
also go back up north and remember this happens in different
Yes.
timing
At
in
different
different
times.
places.
That's exactly right.
And so I feel a little bit of both, and honestly, because what winter, and we talked about this when Drew and I were with you, but there is sort of an intentional and like creation almost forces our hand to slow
Yes.
down. It's like the sun goes down earlier, like it like gets
Yes.
darker earlier. And you
Yes.
think like pre-electricity, there's a slower pace to winter. And I think about, there's this beautiful thing I saw on Instagram. Sometimes Instagram can be crazy, and then sometimes I'm like, I'm so thankful for this. But it
Right.
was a
I
post
know.
about
I know.
I would have seen this if it hadn't have been for this beautiful app.
That's right.
But it was a story about the redwood trees and how they lie dormant, and they're
Wow.
literally like take a season of rest, but that is crucial to they're like some of the tallest, hugest trees in the world.
Yeah.
And so in terms of like production, it's like they're giants, like
Right.
but it's a very intentional season where it's like it literally lets go of everything and lets things pause. And so I think there's a sense in me that is learning as I grow older to appreciate like the pause and the slowness and the stillness of winter. And I think as I head into spring, what I love seeing the both and it's so funny. I had to with my editor when we were writing this book. She was like, "Okay, Ellie, we can't have this is a spring book, so we can't have too many winter spreads."
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!
We were like kind of going back and forth with that, and I'm like, "No, but the whole thing is that underneath the snow, underneath the cold, inside of these branches that literally look dead." There's a line in one of the songs that says, "The old maple in our backyard, she seemed to take this winter hard, but now she's dressed in a brilliant gown of green. She dances on to the song of the spring." And so I think I have this like what I want to do in this transitional period. So I kind of love that we're like the first episode of spring is to pay attention and to put myself in the way of beauty, the beauty and wonder of the seasons changing, of looking at things that look dead. There's perennials in my garden that I'm like, that's for sure gone. Never
You
coming
back or not?
Like I cut it too low, the pruning season, and then to watch with wonder, like to slow down, to take some of the slowness of winter, to take in the beauty of the new life of the spring, to slow myself down and put myself in the way of watching the earth tell us the story. Like I want to let the earth be my pastor.
Ooh, that's good. That's really good.
Yes. My heart. And it feels, honestly, I think this season feels, it's been interesting. We're out on the road, and I think politically, like we've been in a long season of things feeling really divided. And of people on both sides of the spectrum feeling unheard and unseen and angry and being kind of told like you're either in or you're out, or I don't know, it just feels really binary and and disjointed and disconnected. And it's wild, Annie, is we every single night on the road we're getting a room full of people together who certainly probably do not agree on every point politically. Like it's a room full of hundreds or thousands of people each night. And what happens at the end of the night is we're all singing family. And people are smiling and people are holding on to each other. And I think there's something about that spring has to teach us that like new life is always coming, even in a divided, stressful time. And so for people. And so I think, I don't know, I love the idea of putting myself in the way of light and goodness and beauty. It's like whatever's lovely, dwell on these things.
Yes.
Especially when I think sometimes we can get into like doom scrolling. I think what algorithms want us to feel is fear. And even in a time, that feels maybe heavier or harder in our lives personally or in the world, it is good to remember the generative story of our time as well.
Yeah. One of the questions a couple of different reporters have asked me and podcasters have asked me about TJ has been something along the lines of if this just helps one family. And I keep saying, you don't know how the gospel works. You don't know how planting works. I don't plant a seed and get a seed. I plant a seed and get a tree that makes fruit over and over year after year. Like I'm not looking for a 1-to-1. I'm looking for a 1 to a million multiplication. And so in springtime, Ellie, that's what I mean. That's one of the things I feel like the Lord keeps saying to me for spring is look for multiplication. Look for the tears you've sown in the winter to have multiplied fruit in the spring. Like I'm not here for one-to-one, right? I'm here for multiplication in the spring. And I feel like we get to see that in a way in spring that we don't see any other time of the year, it feels like.
Annie, that's amazing. But here's the deal. This is what's crazy. And this is why I'm like, oh, the earth rehearses this all the time. Like if you get out into the garden at all, you know this, but there can't be multiplication unless something dies and falls to the ground. Like this is like my zinnias. My friend Gardenary came in, I guess it was fall. And, I always get so sad when all the flowers are like, falling down. But she was like, look, Ellie, this one tiny seed that you planted, and she showed me how to pull the seeds and save them. And from one flower, there's like 50 seeds. I was like, oh, I never have to buy seeds again. She's like, yeah, that's right. It's 2 fish and it's 5 loaves of bread or 7. I can't remember the math.
That's right. Yeah. No, you're right. You're exactly right. 5 and 2. 5 and 2.
5 and 2. Okay. Yeah. Good. And it turns into a lot. And then Annie, when you think, I love what you said, the tears, let the tears that I have sown, like turn into a garden of flourishing and hope.
Yeah.
And, I'm in the middle of, this has been a very like kind of prolific, oh my gosh, it's snowing outside in my window right now. It's crazy.
That is crazy.
I'm all the way up in Wisconsin, so that checks out.
That's going to happen, yeah.
That's going to happen. But one of the, so I'm working, this is really fun. I'm working on, I think I don't know, within like a year and a half, I think I'm going to have made I don't know, like 5 records or something, maybe 6.
Wow.
Which is crazy. So I'm working right now on my next full length record. And there'll probably be 2 coming because there's been so many songs. But when I think about this season, we have walked through a serious season of loss in our personal life. And I think that is like that feels like one of the mysteries of the gospel of seeing all of these songs and seeing, just because the way that I process grief is via melody, honestly, and doubt and questions that I have. And I think one of the lines that I wrote on one of the songs is literally almost what you just said, but let the tears that we have cried, turn to rain that brings new life. I praise the Lord that you're always by my side from the grave until the garden. Fling the doors of heaven open. And so I think what I'm like thinking about is people who are in a winter season, even as spring comes, like, for you to know that in the hands that you are in, you're in the everlasting arms of love.
That's right.
Even in this season of sorrow. And what love does is somehow turns pain into like fertilizer for the next thing.
That's right.
And it can be multiplied. Yeah. And will not be wasted. And that feels impossible when you're in the middle of it sometimes. Yeah. So I'll be praying for that for this book that you just released into the world.
Just for all of us, for multiplication.
And for all of our stories.
Hey friends, just interrupting this conversation one more time to tell you about one of our incredible partners. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. I recently talked on Instagram about having a place to talk about the things you feel like you can't talk about anywhere else. Counseling has been that for me, and I'm telling you, it is so necessary to being the healthiest leader possible. But I know it's an investment. The cost adds up quickly, but with BetterHelp Online Therapy, you can save on average up to 50% a session compared to in-person sessions. With BetterHelp, help you pay a flat fee for weekly sessions, saving you big on cost and time. Therapy should feel accessible, not like a luxury. With online therapy, you get quality care at a price that makes sense and can help you with anything from anxiety to everyday stress. Your mental health is worth the investment, and now it's within reach. Your well-being is worth it. Visit betterhelp.com/thatsoundsfun today, and my friends get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/thatsoundsfun. And one more incredible partner I get to tell you about, Our Place. Let's talk about our cookware for a second. We've got to consider that many of our pots and pans are loaded with harmful forever chemicals that can get into our food. Ooh, no, thank you. It's time to make the switch to toxin-free cookware. That's where Our Place comes in, and their 4-piece cookware set is a great place to start. These are non-stick, multifunctional pots and pans that are free of toxins, and they're really cute too. Plus, buying the 4-piece set instead of individual pieces saves you $150. It's the perfect balance of safety, style, and function. What is not to love? This is cookware that's designed for performance and built to last. Designed in Los Angeles with over 200 patents, Our Place's products are trusted by Michelin star chefs and have over 80,000 5-star reviews. Stop cooking with toxic cookware and upgrade to Our Place today. Visit FromOurPlace.com/TSF and use the code TSF, like that sounds fun, for 10% off site-wide. With a 100-day risk-free trial, free shipping and returns, you can experience this game-changing cookware with zero risk. And now back to finish up our conversation with Ellie.
That sounds fun.
One of the interesting things we've talked about a couple of times that I would love for you to speak about for a second is how Lent straddles winter and spring. And isn't that interesting? I'd never realized it. But also, Advent straddles fall and winter. I had no idea, but Advent goes right over fall and winter too. So,
yes.
Will you talk for just a second about thinking about spring sings and walking toward Easter? What comes to your mind when you think about that this Lent season we're in is half winter and half spring?
Oh, man. I think that's one of my favorite things about the gospel is that it's a both and. It's a both and plus story. And
right.
I think it holds space. There's so much space. The fact that Lent, like the story leading up to the most beautiful story that I know, which is the story of love beating death and making a way for all of us to know life, even in the presence of death, is I don't know if the church did that intentionally. Like if the church calendar was like, hey, winter and spring. But I think it's like the liminal spaces, right? Of like, I think of, at dusk when the sun is going down and then at dawn when the sun is coming up. This is actually where all the color is.
Wow.
Like that's like when you want to go look at the sky is when it's both darkness and light.
Yes.
And the older that I get, and the more that I honestly suffer and grieve, I think the more beautiful the story of spring, the story of Easter becomes to me. But I think it's the beauty of spring is highlighted and magnified by the darkness and the coldness of winter. And so I'm like, Annie, I have to tell you, I love John O'Donohue. Do you know John O'Donohue?
No, only from you. I've heard you talk about him only from you.
I love him. He's great to listen to because he's from Scotland and you would love that, of course. That's in your heart.
That's right.
But he talks about how I can't remember if I've said this on this podcast before, but I think it's worth repeating, even if I have. And I thought about it so much as we lost Bailey and a dear friend to a battle with cancer, and our our cousin lost her husband in a tragic accident. And so we lost a lot this year.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I heard him on this podcast talk about, he was asked by Krista Tippett on being he used to be a priest and now he's a poet and teacher. And she said, what do you miss about being a priest? And he said, oh, it's easy helping people die. She was like, what? That's really not what I thought you were going to say. Like, you know, can you kind of expound upon that? And he just said, he talked about it being a liminal space where like ego is gone and everything that matters is really clear. And he said, you know, I've come to think about death as a companion that we're all born with. Like our days are all numbered. So we're all and so death walks with us as a companion, you know, through our highest heights, through every valley. And then when it's our time, death takes our hand and death takes God's hand and death walks us back home.
Wow.
So I think that they're like, just to answer your question, the fact that Lent spans the winter and the spring feels like just one other way to like see the embodiment of the gospel story.
Yeah, that's it. I think the same. When you're out on tour, on the Memory Bank tour, you're singing the Spring Sings song.
Yeah.
And so we have to take a minute and talk about tour before you go and enjoy the rest of your day off. So dear everyone listening, Ellie is doing this on her day off, which I immediately was unhappy with that you had agreed to do a podcast on your day off. But
I told you, I was like,
grateful.
look, I feel like I'm getting to have coffee with a friend.
I know, but I feel the same, but I also honor Sabbaths and days off. Okay, tell us how Memory Bank Tour is going. It goes until May, so everybody still has plenty of time to find a show. I had a ball. New York was incredible, Ellie.
It was so much fun. Annie, I have to tell you this, truly, after that was such an amazing night. I mean, this tour has been my favorite one that we've ever done. We are having so much fun. After New York, I was so amped from that show. I'm going to send you off the record, not to post on this podcast, a picture of my leg. It was black and blue because I hit my leg with that tambourine so hard because
oh my gosh.
So I was just like, yes.
Bless your
And
heart.
I went to go do the same thing the next night. Same amazing show the next night too. And I was like, oh my gosh, ow, what happened to me? And I was literally like, oh my gosh, I bruised my entire leg because I was
You tambourine too hard. You went too hard. The whole way y'all set it up, that it's Drew singing, it's y'all together, it's Drew's songs and the neighbor songs, it's your songs, it's y'all. I mean, it is a real experience. Y'all have given, like, it's a concert, of course, it's a show, of course, but it's like this chapters of a book. I mean, y'all have just done such a beautiful job with the set list.
Thank you. It's been really fun to build. And I usually, you know, we only do 14, maybe 8 to 14 of these. And there's 32 shows on this one. And typically by the end of these tours, we're like, okay, that was fun. We're ready. And we are thriving. We're loving this so much. We're having so much fun.
Oh, I'm so glad. Well, for everybody who's listening to this, on March 17th, you've still got almost 2 months of shows you have a chance to get to. So this
and we'll end in Ryman at the Ryman in Nashville.
Yes,
so,
March 3 and 4, 2 and 3.
Yeah.
2.
Like that. I think it's 2 and 3.
2 and 3. My guess is you do not have to respond. But my guess is when you end on a hometown tour, when you end a tour with a hometown 2 shows, and you're in a hometown that is full of other musicians, there's a chance other people might be there.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
okay. That's what I just was a guesser. I was a guesser. Okay.
It's my favorite thing about it. You're just like, who's here?
That's right. That's right. You're like, who's in the audience? Somebody come up and grab this guitar. That's exactly right. Okay. So Ellie, we cannot go without talking about, we talked about Spring Sings, the book, but there's also Spring Sings, the album too, right? Like it's a whole kids album that I think our friends will love hearing, because while we're out planting flowers and while we're out in the sunshine, this is the album we want to listen to. Will you just tell us a little bit about the album?
I will say, I think this might be my favorite kids record I've ever made.
Yay.
Which is just, there's something about it. I do like a bluegrass romp of Christ the Lord is risen today.
Yeah.
I love that hymn.
Yes.
But sometimes it feels adult, Christ the Lord is risen. And I love actually hearing the older men in my church sing that, like in that deep baritone. But this feels like one you could do a dance to, like you could swing somebody around with their arms. So anyway, there's some really beautiful songs on there. And actually I end it with Go Now in Peace, which is the song that the Covenant kids always sing at the end of every chapel. And they sing that a lot in the wake of that tragedy. And so I had my kids' school choir sang on the record. So, and we kind of end with kids singing that as a benediction to send people out of the record. So I'm excited for that.
Ellie, thank you for helping walk us into spring. It's so fun that you and Drew got us going in winter, and now you're getting us out of winter. So that is exactly as it should be.
It is a joy. Man, I hope that people will go plant some seeds. I think that there's a beautiful liturgy in Every Moment Holy that talks about, it's a liturgy for the planting of flowers.
Oh, wow.
And it talks about how the beauty of flowers are like a protest against the darkness.
Come on.
I'm like, man, go get some seeds and put them in the ground, and remember the hope of
That's right.
Of the Easter story.
That's right.
It's gonna be good.
Put on Spring Sings in your ears while you're planting. Listen to the song. It's on our AFD Friday Faves playlist right now, because we love telling people when our friends release songs. But Ellie, will you finish, as we always do, because the show is called That Sounds Fun? Tell me what you're going to do for fun today on your day off. Tell me what you're going to do for fun.
Yeah, baby. We're going to actually go see the Bob Dylan movie, which we've all been wanting to see. So we got a movie theater. It's a pretty snowy, cold day outside actually here. And then Grant Parker, our guitar tech, who's out on the road with us, his birthday was yesterday. So we threw him a blessed birthday party last night, but we will, we'll go do a dinner and all together as the whole crew.
Fun.
So it's going to be
because what people don't realize is we don't all eat dinner together on the road. Like, because you and Drew eat at a different time because you've got VIP while they're all eating.
That is true. It is like there is some. It's a huge gift to have a meal together.
Yes, that's right.
So, and I think, I will say this, I was like, she's surely going to ask me what I'm giving up for Lent or whatever. I was like, I should probably think about that. Cause we're, recording this at the beginning, but my spiritual director, I think giving up things is great. So I'm not anti that at all, but she was like, hey, you could also add something, that you want to practice. And so my hope is to add, a bit of reading every day and carving out a little bit of quiet to take in, some beauty, whether that be poetry or a story. And then also I would love to kind of it's really hard on the road, to get time alone. You're on a bus with 12 people, right?
Yeah.
Like, so, but I think, to take some moments where I'm sneaking away just to get a little beat for quiet.
That's beautiful. And what a gift you're telling us, because those two things that you just said are not things you have to start on Ash Wednesday. Like anybody, you are not too late, friends listening, to jump into Lent. Jump in right now and start reading, start watching, start adding some spiritual disciplines between now and Easter. You have not missed your chance to participate in Lent because you didn't start on Ash Wednesday.
Oh my goodness. I love that, Annie. There's all the grace in the world for that.
And
it's like, I think that is when you started this conversation with Let Us Be in the River.
Yeah.
I think that there is a sense that like always, every day, wherever we are, right underneath the surface of all the stress or whatever it is that you are carrying, right underneath the surface, if you take a deep breath, love is right there. God is right there. And so I think there is like a sense of taking a beat to just notice and pay attention and to remind, for me, I have to remind myself that I'm not doing this alone. I'm not parenting alone. I'm not working on this project alone. I'm not
Yes.
doing this show alone. I'm not walking with this friend through something heavy alone. I'm not battling
right.
cancer alone. But sometimes it just takes I have to take a little bit of space. I know you do the pause app, just like, hey, sometimes it just takes a beat to be like, what's going on? Let me be curious about what's going on. Why am I feeling anxious?
Yes.
Okay. And let me bring that into the presence of love. Let me put my anxiety or my worry in the way of the light. And I literally will sometimes go find the sun if it is available at all unto me. I will literally go. I mean, when we were home for a day, we had a day off at home on the tour.
Yeah.
And there was sun coming in the window and I literally saw this like pool of sunlight and I was just like, I need to get into that. And I literally just laid down in my hallway and took like a 10-minute time of just breathing that in. And we all need a little light. So put yourself in the way of it.
Amen. Thank you, Ellie. Love you.
Love you, buddy.
Oh, you guys, isn't she the best? Okay, go grab your copy of Spring Sings wherever you love to buy books. This would be the perfect thing to put in Easter baskets. And make sure you check out that album as well. It is so good. It's so good. You're going to love it. My mini BFFs are going to love it. Head over to social media. Tell Ellie thank you for being on the show again. If you enjoyed this, go back and make sure you've listened to episode 953 with Drew and Ellie from earlier this year. If you have any questions from this episode, just drop them in the Q&A box on your Spotify app if you're a Spotify listener like me. And you can watch it on Spotify as well now. If you haven't done that, you should do that. Check it out that you can watch the whole video of this episode on YouTube or on Spotify. You can also send us your questions on Instagram at That Sounds Fun Podcast, and we'll try to answer them for you there. If you need anything else from me, I'm embarrassingly easy to find. Annie F. Downs on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, anywhere you may need me, that's where you can find me. I think that's it for me today, friends. Go out or stay home and do something that sounds fun to you. I will do the same. Today, what sounds fun to me? I've got cherry tomatoes roasting in my toaster oven. Listen, if you have not tried roasting your cherry tomatoes, go to my Instagram, find the food blogger highlight, and the second thing on there is a post about roasting tomatoes. They're delicious. They'll change your life. Y'all have a great week. We actually will see you back here on Thursday for our monthly episode with our buddy Eddie, our episode of Annie and Eddie Keep Talking. We'll see you then.
That sounds fun.
That sounds fun.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Check 1, 2 on the microphone. Annie F. Downs in your car to your home. Every week it's something new. A deep talk or an interview. She'll make you laugh, she'll make you cry. When it's dark out, she's a light. When you're down, get you feeling right. Oh man, that sounds fun.
That sounds fun.
That sounds fun.